Someone asked me if there was a MPG difference between a Raptor 37 and 35. If you look at the window sticker, here is the 35 and here is the 37. So yes, there is no difference on the window sticker, but we do know when you have bigger tires, you could potentially get worse MPG. So we're going to drive these trucks today. I borrowed them from Larry H. Miller Super Ford here in Salt Lake City. If you would like to purchase, be sure to ask for Ken Tanner in the commercial department. Let's go ahead and drive the 37 first. We're driving the Raptor 37, and right out of the gate, I can tell that this truck sits just slightly higher. Has a little bit taller stance with the 37s, obviously. But as far as suspension goes, both trucks are about the same. Now this one does have the dual valve shock through Fox, and the Raptor 35 has just the regular single valve. 2.5-inch diameter for the shocks, by the way. And when you drive an off-road truck, the very first thing you'll notice every time is how soft the suspension is. And that's really because this suspension is for high-speed off-road performance. So when you're going 60 miles an hour on sand and it's bumpy, that doesn't translate inside the truck, right? So with that, you have a softer ride when you get these Raptors. That's why I think a lot of guys buy these, because they're kind of like sports cars. They have that deep exhaust sound, depending on how you look at it. I don't mind the sound of this engine. I didn't at first, but on the Raptor, because you can adjust the sound of the exhaust, so you can go in the sport mode, it makes it a little bit louder. I went under a bridge overpass today and it sounded really, really good. Now I will say the only negative thing with these trucks are, because you have the 17-inch wheels, you're gonna have smaller brakes typically on these types of trucks. By the way, this thing does have the lane keep assist too, so if you do go out of your lane, it will turn the steering wheel for you. And I'm really impressed by this truck. I'm gonna hit the brakes just a little bit. So you do have somewhat of a dive action, but the way that they set up the suspension on the front end, it does kind of help with that. Now I'm going to change camera views. I want to show you guys the RPMs here at 60 miles an hour, and then I'm going to get over and pass these cars. So let me get it in 10th gear. So there's 10th gear. So we're what, 1500 RPMs? Okay. So let's go ahead and jump over. We'll get up to 75 miles an hour. It does have to drop down to about 8th gear. So at 75, we're about 1800 RPM. So we go up a good bit. Now that's the 410 rear end. You do have a taller tire. Here are the numbers on the door. You guys can see the gross vehicle weight rating is going to be 7,400 pounds. And then here's the payload, 1,297 pounds. I'll show you guys how much the trucks weigh at the end of the video. We just made it to the midpoint, exit 11, so we're gonna do the exact same drive with the 35s. And one thing I've learned from these trucks, they do not get good gas miles. Like, having this more aggressive front end, wide body stance, you're gonna have more drag, obviously. So it does affect the fuel economy. I might have to do a test with a Raptor versus a regular Ford F-150, because I'm actually interested to see if there's a difference there. But at the midpoint, we're at 14.8 MPG. So let's go ahead and do the 0 to 60, and then we'll jump back into the video. Now for both of these trucks, you're gonna have 450 horsepower, 510 pound-feet of torque, 10-speed transmission, 410 rear end. The only difference with these trucks is the suspension, bumpers, and tires. Here we go.
30, 60,
7.61 0 to 60 is pretty dang good. You got to keep in mind, I am about 5,000 feet above elevation, number one, but number two, I had in two-wheel drive mode. Now, the reason why I didn't put it in auto is because I want to do that in the future. Maybe in the future I'll do another test like this, and I'll do 4 auto versus 2-wheel drive to see if there's a difference in the 0 to 60. But So far, I think I like the bigger tire, guys. Now, obviously, you guys know when you have these more aggressive tires, you're not going to have the best braking performance. I'm really happy with this truck overall. I think that having the bigger tires, it does ride soft. So we'll have to see how it feels back to back. Lastly, the thing I didn't mention yet, I got to check out the seats too, because this has the Recaro seats. Hopefully you guys can see right there. It says Recaro on the side of the seat. And we'll see how the standard seats feel in comparison. So we just made it back. I'm gonna park on the side here. This would be my new stopping points because it's kind of cumbersome inside the dealer lot, right? So right here under the bridge, and 14 even. So 15 miles driven. Let's go ahead and drive the 35s. We're driving the Raptor 35, and in order to feel like I'm still sitting tall, I basically pumped up my chair, so now I'm basically like in a 37, right? Just kidding. But you can tell a difference between the way these trucks drive, guys. The tire size does make a slight difference. It's softer in the Raptor 37. Like right out of the gate, that's the very first thing I noticed. Now here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna switch over to Sport for the steering, Sport for the suspension, and then we're gonna put the exhaust back in sport mode. That way it's all the same. As far as the drive modes go, let's see where we are. We're in normal, so exactly the same. I didn't use the AC or anything like that either, so again, in that regard, it's gonna be the same. Now, so far, we're at 12.3 MPG, and yeah, as far as the transmission goes, let's go ahead and switch back over to the other camera. Before I do that, tire noise seems to be about the same too. I didn't mention that in the last video, but I think the tire noise is the exact same. No difference in the tire noise. Let me get over so I can show you guys the RPMs here. I guess I had to drop back down to about 60 miles an hour. So here it is. So 60 miles an hour, 1500 RPMs. And then back up to 75. 10th gear. It looks like we're a little bit higher. Let me get back up to 75, hold on. We're like at 1900 RPMs, guys. And see, that makes sense, right? Because when you think about it, taller tires is gonna change the gearing a little bit. So having those 37s versus the 35s, it does allow you to run in a lower RPM with the 37s. Isn't that interesting? It's very interesting. So yes, this truck does have a slightly higher RPM with the taller trucks. I didn't see a difference at 60 miles an hour, but definitely at 75, you can tell that this one runs a little bit higher RPM. But yeah, both trucks, they both handle the same. A little bit of body roll. Like these trucks, even in the sport mode, they don't have that stiffer suspension. I thought that you might be able to adjust it to make it a little bit tighter, but you can't from what I can see, because I'm in sport mode, right? But yeah, having the lane departure system, all that good stuff, it's just a lot of safety features these trucks have. I understand why these trucks cost as much as they do. They have a lot more standard equipment than they've ever had in the past 5 years, let's just say. And yeah, they're built pretty well. I mean, this truck is really comfortable. I mean, that, again, as I said in the last truck I drove, this one's the same situation. It's just really soft. It's like driving a sports car that sits high. And it does have a nice sounding exhaust system. Let's go ahead and compare the tires on both trucks. Now, both tires are BF Goodrich KO2s. I would have thought they would have gone with a KO3 on the Raptor 37, but I'm sure they have the reasonings. But LT 315 7017, load range C, 2,535 pounds of capacity per tire at 45 max PSI. And here are the 37 by 12.5 tires, 17-inch wheel, B-locks, and load range C. But this tire has a little bit more capacity at 2,755 pounds, 45 PSI cold. Not bad. Exit 11. You guys are gonna be pretty shocked when you see the fuel economy. I'm just gonna be honest with you right now. You're gonna be really shocked when you see this. I didn't expect it to be a difference. I thought I was gonna just tell you guys 35 and 37 are based the same tire, but that's not true. For some odd reason, this truck is doing so much better. And we're at 16.1. 7.3 miles. I think it's the exact same as the last truck too. 7.3 miles at this midpoint here. But yeah, we are significantly, well not significantly, we're higher. Like I think it was what, 14.8 was at this same point here. Yeah, that's pretty dang good. Let's go ahead and check out the 0 to 60. Here we go.
30. 60.
I'm actually really shocked by that. I was really expecting this truck to lower that number by maybe, I don't know, 0.2 of a second maybe? But yeah, it was worse. But hey, these tires are about the same width, right? And yeah, you just have a little bit taller tire. So there you have it. I mean, that truck, when I'm talking about 37, it's gonna be heavier with the tire, suspension, and the wheels. I'm sure those B-Lock wheels are heavier, but somehow, some way, it managed to get out of that 60 foot, right? And just keep going. Interesting. I was not expecting that at all. But yeah, I gotta try that again in the future, and I'm gonna do it with automatic for sure. Like that is insane. I was not expecting that, guys. Like really shocked. But we should be back in a little bit. I'm at 13.6 MPG, so we lost a good bit, obviously. And yeah, I'll show you guys where we're ending off at. Here is the gross fuel weight rating for the 35s. It is a little bit lower than the 37s. And payload is 1381, which is slightly higher than the truck on the 37s. I almost forgot to mention the seats. The Recaros are not way better, but you can tell that the bowstring on the sides are slightly better. Now these seats do have bowstring on the sides, but the top part of the seat just seems a little bit bigger on the Recaros, and they just hug you better. So if you're going fast off-road, or if you're doing some rock crawling and you're at a nice angle or a nice pitch, I would say that the Recaros are gonna just do a better job at, you know, keeping you positioned in the seat better versus these. I mean, these are probably better for bigger people versus the Recaros that are probably a little bit better for smaller people, because I felt like the bowstring was tight on me, and I'm not that big of a person. Here we are, same spot. 15.4 MPG, 15.1 miles driven. Well guys, it looks like someone is looking at both of the trucks I just drove. So, what do you guys think about that video? I felt as though that went different in my head. I knew that the 35s would get slightly better MPG. I was thinking like maybe a half a mile or less. Sometimes tires don't make a big difference, especially on like a very short trip. But doing the 0 to 60, I think really hurt the 37s for sure. So if you're someone with a lead foot, you might want to stick with the 35, just being honest here. Now the 0 to 60 is what threw me for a loop. I was expecting the Raptor 35 to go at least 0.2 of a second faster to 60, but that just didn't happen. Extra weight on the wheels and tires, and the truck is probably a little bit heavier overall, but nevertheless, it is what it is. Sometimes you have to do tests back to back to back a few times. But in the future, if I have a chance, maybe I'll redo that test. I'm sure that I'll get an opportunity. A lot of these trucks are starting to sit on lots now, so it's easier to do some testing. So be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet. If you like the content, I'll show you guys obviously right here the cost estimate at 50,000 miles. That way you guys can have an idea of how much you're going to spend too. Both trucks use premium gas, same engines, so that's not going to be a factor for you. But be sure to like the video if you haven't done so yet. See you guys soon.